Hey guys. Hi,
Hi,
Amanda.
how
Hi,
are
how are you?
you?
Good. How are you?
Um,
Can you hear me okay?
Let me just adjust this because it really zoomed in on my
Okay.
face.
Hi, guys. Thanks for joining. Can everyone hear me okay? Can you hear me, Amanda?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Just I can hear you great. I just have my headphones in, so I just want to make sure we were all good. Hi everybody. Thanks for joining us. This is so fun. I'm really glad you all are on, and I love your mug, Amanda. That's so cute.
Oh, thanks. Go blue.
Yes, love it. Go blue. Um, Well, hi. Thanks for
Hi.
doing this with
Yeah,
us
of
today.
course. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So, for everyone who is joining, we have Amanda Jawad on today from the class of 2006. Amanda and I, full disclosure, actually graduated together, but she has had such an awesome legal career so far. I'm just really excited for our whole Country Day community to have the chance to hear from you because I know you were supposed to come to Career Day,
Mhm.
and you have in the past, and obviously that got canceled. So this is just a really fun and different opportunity for us to hear from you and learn all about you.
Yeah.
So I think that we should just get started from where it all began. So back at Country Day.
Yes.
Um, okay, Amanda. So if you would take us back to like upper school you, what were some of your favorite classes, activities, and what do you think DCD was preparing you for that you maybe didn't realize at the time until you got to college or even after?
Yeah, I started in ninth grade at the upper school, which was a little bit difficult because I went to a really small Montessori school my whole life.
Hmm.
So even though Country Day is a smaller community, it seemed so big to me at the time.
Hmm.
And it was good in ninth grade because there was a lot of other new people as well. But you're coming in when there's a lot of
Right.
a lot of people already know each other. So I was a little bit kind of intimidated, but
Yeah, that can be
obviously
scary.
I ended up loving it. But my favorite classes, I actually really like my English classes. I had both
Hmm.
of the Wilson brothers
Yeah.
for English. Loved those classes. I was in Model UN, which was fun because I
Hmm.
got to travel. Um,
Okay.
and I did cheerleading. I was the person like at the top of all the stunts that we loved. Stunting was one of my favorite things. So all the assemblies and things,
Yeah.
if anyone dropped me, like the whole school was like, haha, you fell.
Oh
So
my God.
there's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, for sure.
Basically what I did, and I think I played soccer too for a little bit. I was like
Hmm.
forever on the JV soccer team, which says a lot about my soccer skills. What Country Day really prepared me for is this ability to multitask, right? So
Hmm.
we got used to, managing a club with sports, with
Yep.
our schoolwork,
Yep.
and they were long days.
Hmm.
I would get home from cheerleading or soccer or whatever it was and have so much work to do. And I think that really prepared me for wearing so many hats in college. I did a lot in college too.
Hmm.
I was active in my sorority and in
Hmm.
the Panhell group at
Yeah.
Michigan. I was involved in the Lebanese Student Association,
Hmm.
and I knew how to kind of be really busy all the time and manage all these kind of different things from Country Day. And I didn't really
Right.
realize how important that skill is.
Yeah.
I think it's even more important now because everyone's doing a million things at one time, all the time. So it
Yes.
really prepares you for that.
I love that. So, okay, so you mentioned that you were in a sorority and you went to Michigan. So, tell us about your decision to go to U of M and what were some of the most exciting things that you did when you were there?
So for me, going to college was interesting because I'm Lebanese, and as you know, and my dad's an immigrant, so my family is very Lebanese, and I'm
Hmm.
from Dearborn, which is a small kind of tight knit community.
Yeah.
And back at that time, back in the day, this was what 14 years ago when we were
Hmm.
going to college. It wasn't
Yeah.
actually that common for girls from Dearborn to go away to school. So
Okay.
for me, going to Michigan was a really big deal, and
Okay.
I knew that my family would kind of be okay with me going if it was Michigan. So I knew I had to get into
Okay.
Michigan,
Okay.
um, and that was basically the only school I really looked at. And it's
Okay.
just the environment too. Just going onto the Michigan
Oh,
campus,
yeah.
I felt like so
So fun.
happy all the time.
Right.
I loved it. What was the rest of your question?
Well, okay, so one thing that, I mean, I haven't discussed a lot with
Mhm.
some of the guests I've had on is, you know, you joined a sorority, you joined
Mhm.
Greek life. So tell us a little bit about your decision to do that and why.
I think at the time, I have a big family. I have four sisters, and a brother,
Hmm.
and I grew up like around my sisters all the time. And I think I wanted to like form that sense of like, you know, it sounds cheesy to say like sisterhood,
Yeah.
but I was used to being
Hmm.
around a lot of like people that felt like, you know, really close family. So joining my sorority actually gave me the ability to do that. And I think at the time I also was dealing with my cultural identity and kind of being off on my own a little bit. And I was kind of
Hmm.
exploring like more like traditional American cultures while also
Hmm.
kind of staying true to my Lebanese identity as well. So
Okay.
I was involved in both my sorority and the Lebanese Student Association, and just
Okay.
kind of like, you know, having those two parts of my identity. And it was actually nice because I could go back, toggle kind of back and forth if
Sure.
things were like getting heated in the sorority. I would go and hang out with my Lebanese friends, and if
Yeah.
my Lebanese friends had drama, I would go to my sorority. So
Right.
it gave me a lot of balance. But I loved being in a sorority. You
Hmm.
probably had the same
Yeah.
experience.
It's
It was
awesome.
a good time.
Yes, exactly. It's great. It's a great way to, you know, especially a place like Michigan that's so big, it makes it just feel a little bit smaller and more manageable and things like that.
Yeah,
So,
Michigan is huge, and you almost like at the beginning, I was really didn't know how I was going to carve out like my niche, find
yeah.
my place.
Yeah.
And it's nice to go to Michigan because you were there. A lot of our
Hmm.
friends were there from
You
country to,
always, yeah,
and we saw
exactly.
each other in the first couple months. We hung out all the time because
Yes.
we were all like in our little
Yeah.
bubble, figuring out like how we're going to branch out. And I was
Hmm.
really lonely. The first couple months of college were really really hard for me, coming from such a
Hmm.
not being with my family. And
Right.
when my mom left, when she dropped me off, I was like, oh, like.
Yeah.
So I think joining a sorority, once I got really close with my friends there, helped with that loneliness,
Hmm.
and that like the missing of my family that I had. It was alleviated a lot by, you know, I'm
Right.
still friends with my friends from my sorority.
Exactly, exactly. And I love that. And that's so I think typical of a lot of people's experience. So if you are a student out there who is considering whether or not to join Greek life when you go to college, I would really give it some thought because it gives you that nice community. So Amanda, you had a pretty extraordinary Michigan experience. So tell us about your choice to leave U of M early to go to Harvard Law School. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So looking back, it's crazy how much I jam packed into 3 years.
Hmm.
And I don't know that I would have made that same choice now to leave
Was that
early.
always your plan?
I mean, it was always kind of in the back of my head because I had so many
Okay.
AP credits starting. So
Got
in
it.
Country Day, I did AP Spanish. I think I did AP English. And by the time I got to college, I had a whole semester of credit.
Got it.
And then I studied abroad one summer, which gave me another full semester of credit, basically.
Okay.
And that was also like side note,
Hmm.
probably the best thing you did in college was studying abroad.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
highly recommend. But so I had all the credit. I like was finishing a year early, and
Hmm.
so I also felt like this need to kind of finish for some reason. I don't know
Okay.
why. I loved Michigan, and I think everything turned out the way it was supposed to. I
Right.
ended up where I'm meant to be, and I really
Hmm.
believe that everything happens for a reason. But
Yeah.
I don't really recommend going so quickly. It was just kind of like, okay, well, I'm done with
Yeah.
school. And I had gotten into Harvard. So,
Yep.
well, actually, no, I got into Michigan Law School first and was going to go there.
Okay.
I got into Harvard off the wait list
Wow. Okay.
later in the summer. I didn't know I was going to Harvard when I graduated.
Okay. Wow. Okay. That's cool. So, um, stepping onto campus at Harvard, tell us about what it was like to go to HLS. I mean, do you have any advice or words of wisdom for students who are thinking about potentially going to Harvard themselves? Just tell us about your experience there. Like, what was it like? What was your
Yeah.
favorite thing that happened?
It was it was a tough time, to be honest.
Yeah,
Like, Harvard is not an easy environment. And
right.
again, that was,
Highly competitive.
you know, in a lot of ways, Michigan was being on my own for the first time, but in a lot of ways, it wasn't. I was
Hmm.
like 30 minutes from my family.
Yep.
You know, we had that community like we talked about. I had all my sorority friends with me all the time. Like we wouldn't even
Yeah.
go to like CVS without each other.
Right. Right. So true.
So I felt really alone at
Hmm.
Harvard, and you're farther away, and
Hmm.
so and I was young. I
Right.
was 21 when I started law school, and
Right.
that was kind of before most people now, I feel like, take time off
Hmm.
between undergrad and grad school. Back then it was like pretty split, like 50-50.
Okay.
But I had
Interesting.
gone straight through, and there's pros and cons to both. Obviously I finished quickly, but I think a lot of other people had so much more life experience than I did. It made me feel like I wasn't as smart or didn't know as much as
Hmm.
other people because I
Okay.
come out of this kind of like Michigan bubble and
Right.
didn't really have a lot of life experience. So one thing I would advise people to think seriously about is whether they want to like work before they go
Okay.
to graduate school. And then Harvard itself can be tough too because it's just you have the highest achieving people in the
Hmm.
world all in one place, and there's a
Yep.
lot of like you feel the anxiety in the air,
Hmm.
and I think people from Country Day can definitely relate to this, that like
Yeah.
anxiety of like having to
Right.
achieve and like what is
Hmm.
everyone else doing. And it's not that people were like overtly rude or competitive, it's just that everyone's always like wondering what everyone else is doing.
Right.
There was
Interesting.
people that lived in the library, like had all their food delivered to the library all day, and I was kind
Oh
of
my
like,
gosh.
am I supposed to be doing that?
Right. Yes. Yes.
And that's kind of when we talked about this a little bit before.
Hmm.
Imposter syndrome kind of set in for
Right.
me at Harvard, which is like the idea that you don't deserve,
Yes.
or like, you don't deserve the success or whatever,
Hmm.
or the place in life that you've gotten to. And it's
Hmm.
almost like, I think it's probably more common in women, if I had to
Yes.
guess, especially
Hmm.
minority women, feeling like you don't deserve to be here. Like I felt like
Hmm.
I was the dumbest person at Harvard, and looking
Hmm.
back, obviously I wasn't, and even if
No.
I was, it's fine. Like you're still at Harvard,
Right. Right.
but that kind of set in there, and it took me
Hmm.
a really long time, probably like 10 or so years, to like shed that and realize like, oh,
Wow.
I'm
Yeah.
an impulsive person.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't
Right.
an accident. I used to think like it was some kind of accident that I got into Harvard. Like, oh, they just,
Right. They like
made a
didn't read
mistake.
my application at all and like sent me an
Exactly.
acceptance letter.
Yeah.
The only
So,
person to have that ever happen.
right.
Right.
But that was also when I started working on my mental health,
Hmm.
at Harvard, and that's been so important for me. I'm really
Right.
vocal about mental health. I started going to therapy in law school, and I never
Okay.
stopped. I'm still in therapy, and
Okay.
I think sometimes there's a stigma around going to
Yeah.
therapy, like something has to be wrong with you for you to
Right.
go. But I don't think that's true at all. I think it's always helpful to have someone that you can talk to about what's going on in your life. Like they can
Hmm.
be like an objective voice,
Right.
for you. So that
And you
helped
get
me.
some strategies on how to think about things is
Right.
really like what it is.
And being on campus, you have so many good resources. Like Michigan and
Hmm.
Harvard both had really good like on campus resources for mental health. So
Yeah.
I think it's better now. I think like you can go on Instagram and look for mental health tips, find
Hmm.
things to do if you feel down and things like that.
Yeah.
But back then, we weren't using Instagram
And
the
it
way
wasn't
we
really
use
talked
it.
about. Right.
Right. Like I didn't even tell like most of my friends that I went to therapy.
Hmm. Yeah. No, exactly. I love that you brought that up too because
Mhm.
I think it's relevant for Country Day students. I think it's relevant for really anybody who is, in a competitive setting.
Yeah.
Um, and just in general too. Like it's so helpful to be able to get those strategies. So what was your favorite experience though when you were at HLS? What like when you look back, were you like,
Um,
wow, like this professor or this class or like
yeah.
this case I read?
My favorite thing was my friends, actually,
Hmm.
the people I met there, and like that my own self development. Like I worked on myself through therapy and things like that
Yeah.
so much. I got comfortable being alone finally.
Okay.
So that's my favorite. But I guess like the favorite project that I worked on was probably I had a family law professor named Janet Halley, who's awesome.
Okay.
I talked to her about wanting to kind of do some research on Islamic law and
Cool.
how the ways that it comes into play in the Dearborn community here.
Okay. Wow.
I interviewed a lot of women who were identified as Muslim and were divorced, and kind of what their experiences were like.
Okay.
So that was a cool like merging of my
Hmm.
cultural identity with my Harvard identity. I got to go come home for a little bit and do all these interviews, kind of put it all together. I'm still kind of working on writing about it.
That's so awesome.
I actually procrastinated that for like 10 years now.
Fine. That's cool. Okay, so while you were at Harvard, and then, well, let's stick to that. So while you were at Harvard, you had some really cool internships that sort of seem like they've informed what you do now. So can you tell us about what those internships were, and how you got them?
Actually, my very first foray into criminal law was at Country Day. I forgot to mention this when we were talking about Country Day, but I did my senior project in court.
Okay.
So if anyone's thinking like maybe they're interested in law, I would highly recommend that. At the time, Dan Ryan, was Katie's dad, and I know they have a bunch of kids, all Country Day. I did it with him, and he was a judge. He's not a judge anymore, but he was back then. And so I went to criminal law court, and I saw, I really got to see, I watched a criminal trial and things like that. So I was kind of interested in criminal law. And then I'm trying to think of how I got, my first internship was actually with my office, at the U.S. Attorney's Office in Detroit. I don't remember exactly how I got it, but I remember that I just kept talking to a lot of people. So, you know, I would go to like talks and things that were like, I was interested also in national security law, especially in relation to, you know, surveillance of Arab American communities and the language around that. So I think I went to a talk with someone that was interesting, and I just went up to the guy after the talk and I was like, hey, like, I'm interested in this. Do you have any recommendations for internships? So it's really important to like learn how to network and talk to people. And that's something I definitely had to learn in law school. I wasn't super comfortable. Networking can be so awkward. Like you go to these events and like you're supposed to like mingle and meet new people, and you have this like, I'm kind of an introverted person, so going to events and having to go up to people and be like, hi, I'm Amanda, like it's really scary and intimidating, but you have to do it, and you have to learn. But like it's okay if you're not good at that right away. I was not good at that at all. So I would network a lot, and every time I met someone where I was interested in what they were doing, whether it was a professor or someone that came to campus to speak, I would just go up to them after and ask, like, do you have like recommendations? And people kept saying this name to me, Barb McQuaid, who was our old U.S. attorney. And I kept hearing, I was like, okay, I got to check out like what's going on in this Barb McQuaid's office back in Detroit. Because I had done also an internship in college at the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office. So when I found out Barb McQuaid was, she was running the office for federal prosecutors, I thought like I might as well try both and see which one I like. So I interned. So I got that. I think I like called Barb McQuaid, or emailed her or something. And was like, hi, like, you know, I'm so and so. Just interested in an internship, and I think I maybe talked to her, and then she put me in touch with the right people in the office to apply. And then in that, after I did that internship, I knew I wanted to come back eventually one day and do that job because I loved it. The question was, what do I do in between? Because our office doesn't hire right out of law school. You need a pretty good amount of experience before you can apply to my job. So people typically either would go to a law firm or go to like a state prosecutor's office or county prosecutor's office. Like that's kind of the two ways to get into my job. And I luckily kind of had experience both. Or at that point had experience at the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office. So I figured I might as well try the firm thing. And see how I like it. So my second internship in law school was with like a law firm in New York. And that's the firm I ended up going to after law school. The way that it works is, so they have a bunch of law firms come to campus. They come to, you know, Harvard, Michigan, UPenn, all those schools, and they'll do like these rounds of interviews. It's insane. It's like everyone goes to a hotel and they're doing the interviews in hotel rooms. So you're just going from a hotel room to hotel room all week long, knocking on doors and like interviewing one after another. And like most people on campus were doing that. So I was like, oh, I'll just try like the private firm thing and see how I like it. At the very least, I'll, you know, pay down my loans because they pay a good amount. So I did that whole like knocking on the door of the hotel process,
Hmm.
that was like quintessential Harvard moment of just like everyone was waiting in the ballroom and like you
Oh my
could just
God.
feel the anxiety.
Like, yeah,
Everyone's
oh
like
my God.
like on edge, and I was like, I have to get out of here.
Yeah, get me out of here.
Yeah, but those are the two internships I did
Okay.
in law school, and they'll working at a law firm, you get paid for your summer internship, which was really nice at the time.
Right. Right. So then you go to work at this big firm in New York.
Hmm.
Um, Very briefly, kind of tell us what you thought of that experience.
Um, it was a great experience. I just want to say I never thought I would ever live in New York. Like growing up,
Okay.
it's funny to
Yeah.
think about now because like I was kind of shy and and I
Hmm.
just never and also never thought I would have such a like public speaking type job.
Yeah.
And like the girls from New York and my sorority just seemed like I don't know, so much more edgy and like cooler than me. And I was like, I'm just like
Yeah.
this like thinking like I could never live in Manhattan. Like it's so intimidating.
Oh,
But
yeah.
it was like
Yeah.
probably like one of my best experiences of my life. So the firm was really great. It was a very social firm, which I liked.
Yeah.
I also I did a lot of kind of soul searching in law school about like who do I want to be around? Do I want to stay on this like super high achieving path,
Hmm.
or can I kind of relax a little bit and
Hmm.
not be like working
Yeah.
so hard
I
all the
love that.
time?
Yeah.
Because I saw like a lot of the kids that were like going to like the top ranked firms and things like that were like people that I didn't necessarily feel comfortable around, just really like
Right.
serious, competitive, like
Intensive.
people.
Yeah.
And like, I actually do want to kind of enjoy my life.
Yes.
So I went to a firm where I really liked the people and it was really fun.
Okay.
There was a lot of social activity. And the work was really interesting too. I
Hmm.
got really lucky and worked on some really cool things. I worked on a huge pro bono case, which is rare. Usually, law firms they limit the amount of pro bono hours you can do. And if anyone doesn't
Right.
know, pro bono is basically when you're doing free legal work
Right.
for important causes, charity, and things like that. So I was helping to reform the indigent defense system in the state of New York, which was really
Wow.
cool, and that's helped me a lot as a prosecutor
I'm sure. Yeah.
because I got to hear these stories of people who were in jail and they didn't
Hmm.
have the right access to lawyers that they should have had.
Hmm.
Learn how important the other side is and how important it is to have good defense attorneys
Right.
representing people who are in the criminal justice system. So that was such a cool experience that I got to do
Hmm.
at the firm.
Yeah. That's awesome. So, okay. So now you're a prosecutor.
Yes.
Tell us first, what is a prosecutor? What does a prosecutor do? And
Mhm.
what is the difference between a state prosecutor and what you do, which is a federal prosecutor?
Okay, so a prosecutor is basically a person who represents the government in criminal matters. So we're the person bringing the criminal charges against an individual. And there's different like layers of government, right? So you
Hmm.
could commit a crime that might be a violation under state law, or it might be
Hmm.
a violation under federal law, or it could be both, or it could be like a violation of whatever rules of like the township of, you know, Bloomfield Hills or whatever it is.
Okay.
So there's different, some things are just federal crimes, some things are state crimes. So we
Hmm.
prosecute any federal crime, basically.
Okay.
What that means is I work with law enforcement. So I work with usually federal law enforcement, but we also work with state law enforcement too. So
Hmm.
I work with the FBI directly, the DEA, Homeland Security sometimes. And
Okay.
basically they'll come to us and say, this crime happened. Or sometimes they want to do an investigation and to see if there's a crime happening.
Okay.
And then we work with them to either investigate or if it's ready to charge, we make decisions about what to charge. So it's a ton of responsibility.
Yeah.
Our decision making affects people's lives, and that's kind of why I like it because it's
Hmm.
you're really working with the people's lives are in your hands, and you're
Hmm.
working with the community. It's not a lot of law has a lot to do with money.
Yeah.
You're protecting your clients, financial interests
Sure.
or things like that. But what I like about criminal law is you're dealing with people rather than
Yeah.
money. So we decide what charges to bring. Then we charge the person, and I represent the United States from the beginning of the case to the end of the case, which usually looks like someone gets arrested, and then we have to make decisions about whether they should be allowed to um, be out of jail while they're
Okay.
waiting for their trial, whether they should stay in jail, and we make arguments either way.
Okay.
And then if they want to go to trial, we do trials, or
Hmm.
actually most of the time they'll plead guilty. In our system, like a vast
Okay.
majority of cases, the person charged with the crime says, yes, I did the crime, and
Hmm.
that will generally results in them getting a lower sentence than they
Sure.
would if they went to trial and kind of fought it the whole way.
Okay.
So every stage of that, and then a big thing in criminal law is deciding like what is the punishment. So
Right.
we do sentencings where the judge decides what the person's sentence will be, and we make a recommendation based on what we
Okay.
think is fair.